Hey guys. Um, I don't know. Did you guys like the new graphic that I did? Because I was just bored yesterday for no reason. The new background, new graphic. Let me bring John up better. Um, so my co-host for tonight is John Saponaro. We've had him on the first episode, and he was so great we brought him back right away.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I try not to suck too bad. That's usually my MO. I'm just like, how can I be good enough to get invited back?
That's awesome. And somehow it worked, and you're back already. Episode 4. Um, but actually, the real reason is first of all, I do love talking to John. He's great. He has great energy. He's the best to play around with on here. But he and I were just talking, and he does a great show called Goddamn Jets. I just want to make sure I got it right.
That's it.
Well, yeah, Goddamn Jets over on Instagram Live, and he wants to do a Mets kind of show. And I was like, you know what? We have people that watch us. We have the QBC. John's been a part of a QBC event with the Keith Hernandez luncheon. He did a great job warming up the crowd with Dennis, my buddy Dennis Holden, our buddy Dennis Holden.
Mm-hmm.
And John's actually somebody I trust enough to give him his own show on the QBC channel. And in many ways, it helps him and it helps us because I'm not having to do heavy lifting all the time and just keep doing new shows. Meanwhile, John can do some heavy lifting 2 times a week, 3 times a week. He can go on anytime he wants. He has the keys to the castle.
Which is a scary concept, but I do appreciate you trusting me.
Yeah, so like I said, he's one of the guys I trust that, he's also one of the guys that Dan, my partner, trusts with the QBC. So that's high praise right there that you got 2 of us, bringing you in. So let's talk about what the show is going to be about. You can give us a rundown. While you do that, I'm going to tweet out and text and do all this stuff to promote us right now.
Sounds great. Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. For anybody who watches the Goddamn Jets over on Instagram Live, it's something that we started doing at the beginning of this season, and we carried it into the off season. I've got a couple co-hosts there. It's been a ton of fun, but the as much as I love the Jets, the Mets and baseball have always been my first love, and so I would love the opportunity to just give a fan-centric kind of reaction, preview, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to kick off once the season starts. And like you said, it's 2-3 times a week. The plan is to kind of preview or rather wrap up the series that we just got out of and then preview the next series. So have some guests on, obviously other Met fans, comics, personalities, people that I know, people that you know, and then probably fans of other teams too. The team that we're going into play. You can get a little bit of a preview action. See what's going on in Chicago Cubs land or whatever it may be. So yeah, and just a fan centric take. Look, people can go to any one of a million sports network, podcasts and shows and channels to get. People breaking it down, guys who played the game and stuff. But, sometimes, fans know just as much, you know what I mean? Like we live and die by the team. So I pride myself in my knowledge of Mets baseball and all things going on in Mets land. And that's kind of the plan, is to just kind of have a good conversation, hopefully good conversation with all the money they put into the team and all the moves they made. I'm hoping it's a good conversation most times and not a bad one like it was for the Jets, because this is a pretty rough time to talk Jets football the last season.
Thank God I don't follow the Jets or the Giants or the Knicks or the Nets. I just stuck with the Rangers and the Mets, and they both teams look like they're going on an upturn. So yeah. I'm happy with that. I think I've paid my dues enough that I definitely can't deal with any other sports. I know that for a fact. I will go totally insane. I got my baseball, my hockey, and my sports entertainment with wrestling. I'm good.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of how I am. Just replace hockey with football. I'm a much bigger NFL fan. I'm a much bigger Jets fan than I am. I'm a Ranger fan as well, but hockey and basketball are very far away from baseball and football for me. It's baseball up here, football just a notch below, and then it's kind of everything else. Because when you root for the Mets and the Jets, historically, I don't have a lot of room for other heartache. I can't.
Well, it's like the other thing, we're both in the entertainment business. I work in the film business. You do acting, you do live events, you do comedy. And I think we're just all nuts. And we just love that kind of grinding lifestyle where on a film set, you're getting kicked in the teeth. You're doing 18-hour days. Some weeks you're working 6 days a week, and the 6 days you're actually working like 2 jobs. Like I sometimes do anywhere between 80 and 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then
crazy.
Yeah. And then doing, blogging, planning QBCs. Now I picked up this show. Thank God you're doing the other show to help me out. And I'm pretty lucky with it. You, Mad Joe, and even though he hasn't showed up in Graphics Joker, even though I put them in as avatars onto the Media Goon show little banner now, but at least we're assembling a nice little core for the QBC channel.
Yeah, and that's you kind of set it up top, and I do think it's mutually beneficial, and that was my thing. Baseball, whether we love it or not, doesn't get the viewership, doesn't have the eyes that the NFL has. The NFL is king, in this country as far as sports go, and so I wanted to make sure, and that was kind of the genesis of the conversation that we had. I wanted to make sure that the right people that cared about it were going to see it, and I have a lot of stuff that I want to say. I think I have a lot to offer, and the guests that we'll bring on will have a lot to offer as far as Mets baseball goes. But, I want to make sure that, the QBC audience, who is great, can see it. And so I think, doing it on the QBC channel, launching it the way that we are, I think that makes the most sense. It helps you, it helps me. It's great across the board. It's going to be good content. I promise you it will be good content for everybody who's watching. It will be good. It will be fun. It will not just be me ranting and raving for an hour. I will not do that.
Well, who knows? We might get more viewers that way. People love pessimism.
That's true. You know what? I can't say it'll never be me ranting and raving. If the Mets go on like an 8-game skid in the middle of June, I may pop on and just do an impromptu show and just try to keep it as family friendly as possible.
I can't stand these Mets. They're just like flushing. They should be flushed down the toilet bowl. That's it. I'm done. Hang out.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's because it's funny, like I said, from the Jets perspective, it was so difficult to do the show every week, but also doing the show every week, for as bad as they were, was kind of the thing that kept me and my co-host engaged with watching football, because the Jets were historically bad. I mean, at times they looked like the worst football team since the merger. And so, why else are we going to watch it? We watched it for 2 reasons. One, because we live in Los Angeles and we paid for the Sunday ticket, so we're not going to not watch it. And then 2, we were like, well, now we've started doing this show and we're indebted to something other than watching it. Just watching the games. Because every time I won one of the games this year, I fell asleep during the game. That's how boring the offense was. I think it was the game that the Jets scored. They had, I think they had 3 yards of total offense in the entire second half. And I was just out. So, doing the show sometimes is kind of the best thing. Cause it's all right, look, I'm engaged, but I mean, I watch every Mets game anyway. So one of the things I'm super pumped about, I hate that the Mets game is not on SNY, the first game on opening day, but I do like the full slate of games that are going on all day. I think the Mets are in the 4:00 slot, so I'll be watching, I'm going to watch the 1:00 game, the 4:00 game, the 7:00 game, the 10:00 game. I'm probably not going to leave my living room that day.
And then after the 10:00 game, you'll be playing the show.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, after watching all that, I can't relax. All right, now I got to play this.
Yeah, exactly. And the positive is that, being here on the West Coast, it's actually 10 a.m., 1:00, 4:00, and 7. So it's not that bad. Plenty of time to play the show afterward.
So Grubhub is going to get a lot of money off of you that day.
Yeah, yes, they are for sure. I'm not like unless what I might do is like run out and get like breakfast, like grab like a bagel or something before the 10 a.m. But then after that, I am not leaving.
Yeah, yeah, I can't wait for opening day. I still haven't watched any action during the preseason. I just can't get into it. I think it's because I look forward to going down every year with the 7 line.
Yeah.
And we could have went down this year, but I wasn't traveling and having to worry about quarantining with work and missing out on having to paydays just to go see a game. So it hasn't hit me that it's baseball season yet.
Yeah. I also haven't watched an inning of it. And, look, I love baseball. I don't think we all love spring training. It goes on too long. It's kind of absurd that there's going to be like 25 spring training games. That's so many games. I don't think I'd watch every inning of every game, but I would definitely check in. It's so difficult with all the blackouts being on a different coast. And, I have the baseball package, but you can't watch spring training games that way. And so it's so difficult to try to watch them. So I find myself catching highlights on the Mets Instagram and stuff like that, just watching like little moments here and there.
Yeah. And I just, catch up on the post, see what's going on. It's like, hey, Lindor had another home run. Oh, great. That's great.
Yeah.
Maybe, as long as he can bring it over into the regular season, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
What's going on with that? Oh, that's great. Bring it into the regular season. I'm not getting my hopes up. I don't care how much money Cohen has. I don't care what team they've assembled right now. Until they get about 20 games in, I'm not going to, go too crazy with the team.
Yeah, you can't. And that's the thing. Everybody gets so reactionary and, obviously that's going to be a big part of the show, but you can't, you have to realize that the baseball season is so long. And, when you're talking NFL games, one game is 1/16 of the schedule. That is so much. You go on a 2-game losing streak in the NFL, it could blow up your season. The best teams are they're gonna lose 60 plus games. The best teams, so you can't get crazy over it. So you try to stay in a groove and just kind of, hey, okay, this is good. We're okay. I'm just happy it started. I'm just happy we can watch Mets baseball every night. I'm happy that it's not a 60-game season. Stuff like that. Like I'm just gonna try to enjoy it because last year. I know COVID was a bummer for so many things and it was way worse than that for a lot of people, but not having baseball, not having live sports was so difficult because, whenever we've dealt with other kinds of things, even post 9/11 baseball was such a big deal. And then when the NFL was, really rolling that year, when we've dealt with these tragedies and these terrible things, there's always sports. Sports is always the thing to go to. And the pandemic killed all of that off. And so, for the first few months last year, not having baseball, not having any sports, and then you couldn't go outside, you just had to just sit there and just rip through Netflix. I'm just so happy that baseball is coming back.
Yeah, between baseball and the Marvel shows. And did you catch the Mighty Ducks?
I did not. I have not watched the Mighty Ducks yet, but I am all caught up on Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is chef's kiss good. That show is fantastic.
It's great. I loved WandaVision. I was like, all right, I'm not going to have high hopes with, Falcon and Winter Soldier just because, what's the odds of them putting together another TV show back to back that it's that good? And I just love it.
It's so good. And what I find so impressive is that, they've really been able to find what works and what doesn't work for each individual character or character combination. And, Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan have such great chemistry. The show is so seamless, comedy to action, boom, boom. Without feeling awkward or forced or skipping any beats. And, it almost feels like the perfect kind of sequel to the Winter Soldier film, the Captain America Winter Soldier. And that was so long ago, but they've captured that same kind of vibe. There's this, political thriller kind of vibe about the show. It's like Homeland. It's like 24. And, coming off of the risk that they just took with WandaVision, it's amazing that they made both of those shows at the same time. It's mind blowing.
Yeah. And they're so, they're so different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's great. And I love the fact that they have showrunners and the vision to be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait for the, more shows to come out, especially it's great that they could do it longer form than just a film, and you can
Yeah.
flesh out more stuff, and you're really getting to like the characters. It's kind of, Falcon and Winter Soldier is almost like the Odd Couple, except set in war times.
Right. Right. And what I also like about it is it's not formulaic in any way. And like, the Marvel Netflix shows were fun and they were entertaining. Some were way better than others. Daredevil is the cream of the crop. Iron Fist was, terrible. But they all had that Netflix mold, 13 episodes. It was the deal that Disney and Netflix reached, and they all had to do that. And so at times you would have, things would be a little plotting. You're like, I don't know if this season 2 of Jessica Jones needs to be 13 episodes, 13 hours of content. When you look at what they did with WandaVision, most of the episodes were about 35 minutes. Some were a little bit longer, but they were 30 to 35 minutes, and there was 9 of them, which is a weird number, but they just wanted to tell the story. And now this, you've got those like 48-minute episodes, but there's only 6 episodes. So they've just established like, okay, look, we've got about 6 hours of story we want to tell, and we're going to tell that in 6 episodes, and then we're out. And, a lot of these things are miniseries too. Like they're not going to be locked into Disney Plus. These characters are coming back in films. WandaVision is a one-off. It is not coming back. There's not going to be a season 2 of WandaVision. And I think the same for this. So, the stories that they're telling and the way that they're telling them, really impressive, really fun.
Yeah. And, then they won't necessarily have a season 2, but they might bring the characters back, into other shows. Where it could be West Coast Avengers. It could be Secret. You got the Secret Wars coming out eventually with Nick Fury. So who knows who's going to be in there with them, So it's so many different things, so many moving parts. And I think Disney still wants to do the big blockbuster, but I think they want to do the storytelling through Disney Plus, which is I'm fine with. I'd rather be at home watching it than going to a movie theater. And that's even before COVID.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the experience of going to a movie theater. Sometimes they're not great, but generally speaking, I do enjoy it. But, I think that the way that the emphasis on the story to me is the coolest part of it because, there was all that flack, right? Martin Scorsese, who's great. Everybody loves Scorsese. He's a great filmmaker, one of the best of all time. But he said like that, it's not real cinema. And I don't know how you can watch this and say that it's not real cinema. Now, could you watch Ben Affleck's Daredevil and say that that's not real cinema? Could you watch, Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern? Like, yeah, those were bad movies. Those were cookie cutter, late 90s, early 2000s superhero thrown together stuff. But what the MCU is doing now is it's in a lot of ways, it's high art in some ways. Like I said, like, Guardians of the Galaxy is an ensemble misfit comedy. Then you've got Captain America: The Winter Soldier is a political thriller. You've got the new multiverse Doctor Strange film is going to be a horror film. Is going to be so they're taking these things, they're allowing the genre to kind of go wherever it needs to go, like a comic book should really.
Yeah, and the comic books are great. Like Doctor Strange in the 80s and early 90s was very hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since they figured out what to do with the character in the films, they brought that into the comics. And the comics are more enjoyable now.
Right.
And, usually Doctor Strange, Mr. Fantastic, even Iron Man in the comics were very boring characters.
Right.
And now they've actually found the formula how to make them, more well-liked. And it's like, hey, you know what? Iron Man, I'm sad that he's gone. Hey, Mr. Fantastic, I can't wait till they get the Fantastic Four into the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
And it's just great that they're doing that in the comics, testing it out in the comics, and also bringing it to the big screen. So when a Scorsese's like, yeah, that's not real cinema. Well, if you're taking stories from like Frankenstein and Dracula, where those were books and people could always consider that not real cinema because
Mhm.
somebody didn't write it just for a film. But those are some of the greatest movies.
Yeah. And you know, not to, again, I love Scorsese. I'm not going to dump on him. And how could you? But like, you know, I mean, this is a guy who built his entire legacy off of making essentially one type of film. You know, the crime drama. And they're great, you know, but whether you said it in, you know, in Brooklyn in the 50s or, you know, Boston in the 2000s, it's you know, it's a crime drama, it's a mafia movie, it's you know, high stakes, high intensity, the writing is great, all of it, it's fine, but you know, I mean, it's hard for him to say something is like, you know, kind of pigeonhole in one track when like he does make one kind of movie, generally speaking.
Yeah, I worked with them on the pilot for Boardwalk Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And what he would do as a director would go out, have his AD set up the shot, come out of his trailer, go into his Mercedes that had his own little video village in there, drive to the edge of set, make sure everything's the way he wanted to do it, would call action, get his shots, go back to the trailer and go take a nap for like an hour and a half while they set up the next shot.
Right.
So if he's like, he became very formulaic because that's what he does on every film now.
Yeah. I did some, it wound up just being background, but I was there on The Irishman, and it was a similar situation. He wasn't in his car, but he had a tent and his trailer, and he just went back and forth from his tent to his trailer, and everything he needed was in the tent. And his first AD really directed it. Like, I mean, obviously Scorsese's calling the shots, but you know, you never saw him. We saw him twice when he walked from one to the other and back. And, you know, that was it. So it's just kind of like, yeah, man, look, your process is your process. But I also, again, like, I'm not trying to turn this into a Scorsese dump fest. I just think, like, you know, some things are just fun. Like, you know, some things they just are what they are. You know, you can have a fun action movie. Like, I'm not a fan of the Fast and the Furious franchise, but I know a lot of people who really are cinema guys and girls that love it. And I don't knock them for it because, you know what? I love John Wick. I think the John Wick movies are fantastic. So I'm not going to judge them. You know what I mean? And those are just the movies that they deliver on a plot and they're fun as hell.
Well, the funny thing about Fast and the Furious, it started out as like a heist series.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, hey, grounded, everything's happening. It's about family. All right, we left Dom, we went to Miami, we're doing this, now we're in Tokyo. And you know, everything was like, up until Tokyo, everything was like, all right, it's pretty, you know, like realistic. Then all of a sudden they're like the Avengers in cars without superpowers.
Yeah.
Physics does not apply to them, but that's one of those things when like you're a kid and you're like growing up, you're like, you know what? I just want to turn off my brain and just watch something fun. John Wick, you know, has great action scenes, but at the same time, you could feel Keanu, being like John Wick, and you could feel what he's going through. Does he really want to kill all these people? No. Is he gonna take their lives over his? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too. Like, sometimes I say this about action films and people take it the wrong way, where, you know, I say they can be simpler. And I don't mean that they're simple and they just exist, because like John Wick, the point you made is the perfect point, because I mean, Keanu, he puts his all into it, you know, and you get the emotion from it. But like, sometimes they try to be too grounded or they try to be too high drama. And it's like, look, man, you don't have to be. This is an action movie. You can be Fast and the Furious. You could jump your car from the roof of one skyscraper to another and then land on top of a helicopter and everybody makes it out. I don't care. Like, you know, I'm not watching this because I think I want to watch, like, you know, actors at their best. You know, there are films for that too. So, you know, action films, I'll buy into the suspension of disbelief. You want to tell me that there's a secret society of assassins and John Wick is the best of all of them, and you know, just when he thought he was out, they pull him back in. Fine, I'm in. Like, that's it. That's all I need.
Yeah, and you know, I'm so happy with that, and it's amazing. I love, you know what, I'm like, I really love about our dynamic now. We're going through the Mets, we're going through the film business,
Yeah.
we're talking about our experiences, and then just even thinking about that. Do we have a name for the show yet?
Not quite. I don't want to announce it. I think we do, because I think I'm going to go with what you and I talked about, which honestly was your idea. I'm going to give you 100% credit because it's all you. I think that's it. I just want to see how it looks. And I've been playing around with some like logos and some looks. I just want to make sure. And since I have a few more days, I'm not going to say it quite yet, but I think it's going to be what you said.
And that just came off the top of my head that day too.
It just works, it just works. It's for people watching, they're like, just what is it? But like, no, I'll probably do like some kind of reveal. Like I'll probably post like the look of it on Instagram or something like that, like the logo or something. But I think it'll be good.
I think what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to do an announcement show about what the name of the show is going to be.
An announcement show that actually does make sense. I could do like a quick little like, hey, this is the deal, this is what we're doing, and kind of for anybody who misses this one, kind of run down what it's going to be. Maybe like a 10 or 15 minute little thing that's just like, hey, this is what the show is, and this is what you can expect. Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, and then you don't need me around. You can do everything yourself, and that way I can go relax a little bit.
That's true, and you do need to relax.
By the way, can you see I have the mask tan today?
Yes, I can. I was actually just noticing my own sunburn, and I got this like tan line up here from wearing I went out and played softball today, but I play a lot now because the weather's always great in Los Angeles. But yeah, I have this weird. I noticed it the other day. I was like, oh, I have to not wear a hat for a couple days.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to actually paint my face with sunscreen, almost like the like Hawk,
yeah.
or Hawk or Animal, from the Legion of Doom, just to get this all evened out. So who knows? But
it's tough. I got all kinds. I got like another tan line here. I got like weird tan lines all over the place. The sun's getting real strong out here. So
it's like me. I drive so much. I have my arm out the window. I got the trucker's tan. And I can't. I used to have a car where I had a sunroof where I would open up the sunroof and try to even out.
Yeah,
I don't have that anymore.
You gotta get one of those like big with the cars with the moon roof where the whole thing opens up and you can just.
Gonna have to tell my wife, drive me around the block a few times. I'm hanging out the passenger side. Just like, help. All right, I'm good. So. I'm all over the place today, but I like the way everything goes. We're really good at, moving from spot to spot.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to get, so I consider John a very funny comedian, and a lot of people do too.
Thank you.
I kind of fell down the Saponaro wormhole before because I went onto YouTube because I was trying to look for the Winter Soldier and Captain America thing, just because I haven't seen it in a while and I wanted to bring it up again.
Yeah.
And then I found your acting reel.
Oh.
So I fell down to that hole, and I was just like laughing. And then I saw the Gotham comedy club stuff, and just had me laughing right away. And
thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, you crack me up, and I'm not saying that just because you're my buddy. Even if you're my buddy and I didn't find you funny, I'd let you know.
Yeah. Well, that's a real friend too.
Yeah. Like, hey
man, you should not do this anymore. You need to go get like a real job.
Or better yet, listen, your comedy might be good for some people, but I can't stand it. Love you, can't stand it.
Also fair. Also very fair.
So I'm going to throw myself out there under the bus. I have never actually shown this out. I've had it on Vimeo, set on private, but it's me doing my one and only time doing stand-up comedy. My first and only so far. Never know, I might do it again one day, but as of now, it's my first and only. And I'm going to let John watch it and critique it. And and I know you guys are going to find like one or two little places to chuckle. You're not going to guffaw. It's not going to be anything like great, and I'm prepared for that. So, this is from a comedy show that me and Dennis Holden produced when we were doing live events, and we were just, trying to have some fun because we get bored, and when we get bored, we get creative, and when we get creative, it just stuff happens. Just like yesterday, I was bored and I created that whole Media Goon logo. Even though I have two graphic artists, and artists that are friends that are part of the show, I'm the one that came up with it.
Yeah.
And I ran it by them. I'm like, what do you guys think? They're like, that's actually better than the idea that you originally had. I was like, all right, cool. We're going to go with that then.
Let's run with it.
Yeah. So Dennis and I did the show. I cut me out. It's 5 minutes. Hopefully we don't lose too many viewers. I don't want. So I'm going to actually leave John in here. I'm going to stay in here too. Let's see if we can get this going. It's the first time I'm actually going to run video on here like this, where you can actually hear me and John talk. So John might be asking me stuff when I'm thinking, when I'm doing this, or he might just tell me never to go in front of a microphone in front of people again. And I'm okay with that. So I'm going to add this to the stream. I'm going to lower it too. It's a little too loud.
Comedian. Right. 2 comedians left. Our next comedian is a very good friend of mine. This is his first time to do comedy ever. He's going to be holding the microphone. He's going to be making eye contact with people. I'm looking forward to this. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend Keith Wagner.
Okay, so far so good.
Oh, flawless. First time ever on stage doing comedy, so I'm planning on something, just so you guys know. I want to thank Dennis for actually putting this together with me. I don't know if you guys know it, but he's been pretty famous on the internet. You guys have Twitter? All right, so Dennis actually quit the job a few years ago as the Twitter egg. Just so you know.
Solid roast.
So, my real life, I'm actually a teamster. So I work in the film business. I do like TV shows like Gotham and stuff like that. So if anything happens, just remember, I am a teamster. Just remember that, guys. So my wife and I just got a new puppy. He's about 4.5 months old. He's a great little puppy. He's a Scottish Terrier. His name is Nash. The dog is great, except he has separation anxiety. So with the separation anxiety, he starts barking like crazy every time we leave the house to go to just throw out the garbage. It's so bad that when I actually go to the bathroom to even shave, he starts freaking out. So the other day, going into shave, as you can see, I'm very well shaved right now. So I go shave. He's behind me. He's sleeping, but he's behind me. I shut the door. I hear scratching at the door. I ignore him. I hear more scratching. Yo, Nash, cut it out. Next thing I hear is, I am not opening up this door for this dog. I'm letting him bark all the time. I don't care. I hear again. So I went up the door. He peed on the floor. Look at him like, whatever. I gotta finish shaving. Shut the door. I would start putting on shaving cream all over my face, bothering up. Next thing I hear, now I've never heard him walk like that before. I open up the door. He crapped on the floor now. He's just trying to make my life miserable. Close the door again, just leaving it. I'll finish it with them whenever I'm good and ready. So I'm got the shaving cream all over my face, about to take the razor to my face. I hear, like, what the hell kind of bark is that? I open up the door, my dog with a dead body on the floor. Like, was that a warning? What is he trying to say to me? That if I leave the house, he's going to kill me? Or is he trying to frame me? But then again, remember, guys, I'm a teamster, and I know how to deal with that. So on the way to catch tonight, I went to the Mets game first. So I went home, I went to changed. I don't see the dog anywhere. I figured he's out with my wife. I'm looking around, don't see him. I'm like, good to go out. I get down to my Jeep, I hear a bark in the distance. Bark. I'm like, nah, that can't be my dog. So I get into my Jeep, I start driving here. I see a black sedan starts following me. I make a left, it makes a left. I make a right, it makes a right. I keep driving, trying to go past it. No matter what I did, that car was sticking with me. I pull up the catch. I'm like, all right, I gotta see what this is. It's a lift. The back window goes down, and it's my dog. My dog downloaded the Lyft app and was starting to follow me with Lyft. Now I'm screwed. I don't know what I'm gonna do now. So, just so you guys know, if you have a dog that has any kind of separation anxiety, just run. Just run. That's the only way you're gonna get away from it. So, yeah, like I said, this is my first time with comedy. I don't know how to stretch it out. How much more time do I have? 30 minutes? 45 seconds. Wow, I did better than I thought I was going to do. All right, what can I do for 45 seconds? Oh, God. I don't know. Just remember, folks, Teamster, everybody better be laughing and clapping for me when I get off the stage. All right. I'm going to just run out of stuff. I'm going to bring Dennis back up because I don't have anything else to say. Thanks, everybody.
Please welcome everybody. There is actually there's a dog back there, and I don't know what you were saying in dogese, but I would just watch yourself on your way home. Just be careful. Yeah, he's out too. Yeah, so does Keith, but we don't talk about that very much.
That was honestly, it was pretty solid, man. Like, I mean, especially for the first time, because the first time is messy. The first time is let me put it to you this way before I say anything about your set in particular. So when I did comedy for the first time, it was like 9 years ago now. I also had it recorded. That's like a thing. If people are watching this, they don't know, most of the time your stuff gets recorded. Sometimes people do it for you, whatever. And the first time you kind of want to commemorate. So somebody recorded it. It wasn't bad. My first time was sort of similar to that, whereas like I had some laughs. I knew what I wanted to talk about, but I didn't really know how to write jokes necessarily. Like it could be funny stuff, but you got to have like you have to have the punchlines in the right spot. And so, but I had this tape. And then like 2.5, 3 years go by. I'm into comedy now. I kind of understand what I'm doing. I've been funny. I've been bad. I've been on the road. Like I've been all this stuff. And I find this tape. It's not actual tape. I find the set on an old hard drive. And I was like, oh man, this is the first time I did comedy. I'm going to watch this. And I pull it up on my computer. And it was a 7-minute set. I got 1.5 minutes into it. And I was like, nope. I stopped it. I was like, I would rather remember it fondly saying like, it was my first time. It wasn't that bad. Watching it, knowing what I knew like 3-4 years later, I was like, man, that was bad. But like, that's how they go the first time. And like, you're like, the way that you got into the stories, like, the stories were personal. They were, it was about your dog. They were relatable. The way that you got into them were like, it's what you need to do. It's how you need to do it. It's the comfortability of doing stand-up over and over again. It's the stuff that becomes the muscle memory that actually, I think, makes you better. Obviously, if you don't write jokes and you're not doing it all the time, you won't be good. But like, it's those things where you're comfortable not repeating certain stuff. So like you're set up with the dog peed, the dog pooped, the dog killed somebody. Like that was great. It was just like this like thing like, oh man, this guy's serious. This dog is serious right now. But so that's one of those things like that joke could work real well if you had a driving force to want to do comedy like that. You could punch that up. It would just be much shorter. Like it would be much more concise and you get to that. There was stuff there though. I love the roast. I mean, when you're going off and you're like, making fun of your buddies, like you're from New York, like it's easy for us to do. That stuff is great. The Teamster stuff is just like I don't know if everybody would get that, but it's worth doing because it's just like, you know what, screw it. Like the people who this is for, they're gonna know this is funny enough. I liked it. Listen, man. I like as somebody who does this, like I give anybody who goes up there a ton of credit. Like at any time, you know, especially if they're like, I don't know, I think I'm gonna try it. Like, screw it, man, try it.
Well, I don't know if I ever told you. I probably did tell you like the whole story about like how Dennis got me into doing it, because there's a couple of comedians that I just don't find funny. You know, okay. I've been watching comedy shows since I was a kid. Like I used to watch the Catch a Rising Star and the stuff that they would have on like Uptown Comedy Club, and I forgot what show it was at after Saturday Night Live in the morning.
Showtime at the Apollo.
Showtime at the Apollo, but there was something else too. There was like another one that was like 2:00 in the morning or something like that.
Comics Unleashed?
Maybe. Well, that was with Byron Allen.
Yeah.
No, I'm a few years older than you. There was actually like stand-up shows on like like they would go to one comedian at one comedy club, and then they would go to another comedian at a different comedy club. And then when they would go to another comedian, then they would go back to the first comedian again.
Okay.
So they would cut up the sets.
Okay.
And
that's kind of like what a Premium Blend was on Comedy Central.
Yeah.
It might not be that show, but Premium Blend was the same thing.
So I always watched that stuff. I used to watch Johnny Carson, you know, like Robert Klein and you know, like Don Rickles and all these guys. So I was always like a student of comedy, even though I wasn't, you know, ever planning on doing any kind of stand-up, but I knew what was funny. And Dennis turned around to me and goes, well, if you think you could do it and you think you could be funny, so do it. I'm like, all right. He goes, wait, are you serious? I'm like, I hate being in front of people, you know, in person, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
He goes, I can't believe you're going to do it. I'm like, huh? What? You're saying that if I think I can do it, I'm going to do it. Yeah. I don't care if I fail. I know I'm going to get at least one chuckle out of somebody. And that's going to be a win for me.
Yeah. And
I actually took my phone, recorded that whole set right off the top of my head in the first minute after he challenged me, and I sent it to him, and he went, I can't believe how solid this is. He goes, this is no, you've had this for a while. I'm like, no, it just came off the top of my head. And you the way we were talking the other night, you see how things just come off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So that's how he did it to me, you know, got me in. And then you figured I'd be like, you know, maybe the first comic or the second comic on. He put me right before the headliner.
Yeah, that's Dennis just getting, you know, hey, no pressure, man. Go.
And why do you think I called him the Twitter egg?
Yeah. Yeah. Did it's at the beginning of the video, it sounded like there was a lot of commotion. Maybe it was further back towards the camera. Do you remember in the room? Like, because it sounded like the audience wasn't the most cooperative at the beginning. They quieted down. But do you remember if it was like, am I just hearing that from where the camera was, or was it like that in the room?
Well, it was like that in the room a little bit, but also back towards the camera was where there was more of commotion, because that's when they were getting served. So we did it at a restaurant. It wasn't like it was a comedy club where they have the set times when they come out with the drinks and the food and drop the check. This was just constantly going. And this was maybe like the third time they ever had a comedy show there. And the other time was me and Dennis again.
Right.
Or no, it was the third time. We did the fourth time. So we did the third and fourth time.
Okay.
And so people, you know, towards the back, I think also a lot of the people that showed up didn't know there was a comedy show going on at first.
Yeah.
Until they got seated into the back. So I heard some commotion. I heard some plates, but I just was like, whatever. And I think it got picked up more from the camera because I didn't have a recorder going through the board.
Right. That's why I asked, because I was like, at first I was like, man, these people are being like so uncooperative with like what's happening, which happens too. I mean, we've all done those shows where you're just like, do you guys even care? Like, to me, that's the worst. You know, I could deal. I'd rather have people, literally throwing tomatoes at me and heckling me than not being indifferent, because I always think like if they're listening, I can get them to laugh. If they're not listening, the game's over.
I was hoping to have a heckler.
Yeah.
Because that would have saved me having to, to stretch out for 45 seconds. And I know I can go jab to jab with somebody.
Yeah.
I actually did it with a comedian years ago at Stand Up New York. I was getting up to use the restroom, and I wasn't trying to be rude during her set, but that was the only time I could get up to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I got up and she goes, "Oh, look at this guy leaving. What's the matter? If you're running out on your check." I'm like, "No, I'm running out on this set because it's horrible." And she just, I totally threw her off too.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I just kept going. It wasn't like I was going to keep exchanging barbs with her because I know she's, she was going to end up beating me, but I hit her and I just went.
Sometimes you have to just get out of it. Oh my God. I'm running out of this set. That is cold-blooded. That is a cold thing to say.
I knew I had her, and I'll tell you who it is, after we get off, because I don't want to.
Okay, yeah,
she's a little bit of a name now.
Okay, all right, that's fine. We can leave it. We can leave it off. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to, somebody sees this. I'm like, John was talking shit about you. No, I wasn't. It was just a story. We're just talking.
It was Keith, and if you want, he can come to a set again.
Take it up with Keith. He actually said he would love to.
He would love to tape it one-on-one, back and forth.
Oh my God.
That would actually be a pretty cool sketch. I'm sure somebody's already done it. Have two comedians at a tennis center. Instead of volleying a ball, they just keep volleying jokes back and forth at each other or insults.
I like that. I like the setting of doing it. Yeah, I like the do it. Like the setting is what makes that.
Yeah, so thanks for watching that.
Yeah, man, I'm sorry. So Keith said that to me the other day, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna watch it," and then it's just been a crazy couple of days, and I completely I didn't even answer any of his texts till he was like, "Hey, so we're gonna go live in 40 minutes," and I was like, "Oh yeah, we are." I totally remembered. No, I actually did, but I was just like, "Oh man, I did not do the things that I wanted to do leading up to this at all." So,
I mean, even if you weren't on, I was just gonna show the comedy and just take it on the chin.
It's not that it's not bad. I gotta be honest, because it again, it's such a singular experience. There's no way to prepare for it. You prepare, but you don't. The problem is that you will prepare, but you don't actually know how to prepare. So nothing else that you do trains you for that. And I remember having that conversation with my buddy the first time that I ever did stand up. I was like, hey, okay, I'm ready to do it. Give me a month and I will let you know when I'm ready for a show. And then I started trying to write jokes or whatever that was. And I started doing this stuff. And then 3 weeks went by and I was like, hey man, can you get me that show? And he was like, yeah, are you ready? And I'm like, I'm going to have to be. I don't know what this actually is. I don't know what it entails. I've written some stuff. I'm prepared, but you don't know what it is until you start really getting into it.
Yeah, it's also with wrestling, that there's a lot of times the wrestlers have stuff laid out and they're going to do a certain, they're going to work a match a certain way. It was like The Rock and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. And Hogan was supposed to be going in as a heel and The Rock was supposed to be the face. Halfway through the match, they turned. Yeah. Because the crowd was going, for Hogan, and they just went, all right, we gotta adjust this. So then the Rock started wrestling as a heel. The Hogan was the face, and it just became, you got to move on the fly. Yeah. And that's the same thing you got to do when you're preparing for anything like comedy or any kind of anything that you're interacting with a crowd, but you're not set on a script.
Right. Yeah. If you're doing a play or something, obviously you're locked into that kind of come what may. People might like it, they might not, whatever. But if you're not tied to anything and it's live and it's firing, you just got to go with it, man. Like you could have the best laid plans, and then it's just like, oh, you guys like when I talk about this? I guess I'll talk about this more. You want to hear more about the dog? I'll do more. I don't have anything more about the dog, but I'll just keep talking about it.
Yeah, well, I think that's when I started winning them over. Is when I started doing the dog barks.
Yeah,
and that seemed like when I got their attention. It's like, what is this weirdo doing barking like a dog?
That usually gets people though. You know, you do those act outs, you do those, vocalizations or whatever, and people are like, oh, wait a minute, what happened? They start keying in.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to do though, which I didn't do because I couldn't pay attention to them because I was running the board in the back. All the equipment that was there and the curtain and everything, that's all my equipment. I have my own speakers, right. I have my own mixing board and everything, kind of like the Keith Hernandez event. So right. I wanted to bring Nash and have somebody poke his head out through the curtain as I'm talking about him.
Just like, whoop.
Yep, just poke him out, and he's just like, and pull him back in. Poke his head out, later on, pull it back in. And I just found that I think that would have made people, totally lose it.
Yeah.
Not doing a prop comedy, but I think just a little setup with, this is just absurd.
Yeah. He's here. He's behind you.
Look. What? And all of a sudden, the dog gets pulled back. What are you guys talking about? But yeah, and honestly, I sent that to you, I think, a year ago, too, and you never watched it.
I don't know if you did, but you probably did. I'm bad at that because I have all my notifications turned off except for, like, calls and texts. So, like, sometimes, like, stuff gets sent to me on, like, Instagram Messenger, and sometimes it could be important stuff, and I'm like, oh, that was 4 days ago. I hope this still counts. Like, hey, sorry, I didn't, because sometimes I go down the rabbit hole of social media, and so I just turn all that stuff off, and then I'll miss something, and I'll mean to go back to it, and then I just forget, and then, but my bad.
It's okay. We saw it live. It worked out even better.
Yes, it did take you having to put yourself out there, but you were very willing to do it, so,
Yeah, I figured I'd put myself out there once in front of, I think there was like 60, 70 people at that show.
That's actually, that could be kind of intimidating for your first time. I mean, you want people, because the more people, the more laughs you could theoretically get. But when you're not comfortable, like you said, admittedly, that you're not that comfortable in front of people like that, that's, kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I noticed I kept going to my crutch of, So I'm never going to do that again with the so.
Never, you don't know. I mean, we'll see.
Well, only if I'm talking about sewing machines or something like that. All right. Hey, we're doing a lot longer than we did the last time you were on. I think we did a half an hour here with you last time. We're almost at an hour, and I mean, we could stay on, but I don't want to take up your Saturday night.
No, that's cool. I mean, yeah, I'm good with just especially because we're gonna come. I'll come back on and do the kind of reveal thing, in a couple days. So yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's fine with me. I also wanted to give you more time and have people, get to know your personality more, so that way when you do the show, they know what they're gonna get from you.
Right.
And I can't wait to see what guests you have, and because I have a feeling that you're gonna, bring out some fun people to banter with.
I think so. I mean, that's the hope anyway. I'm looking at some people now. I'm trying to figure out how to book the guests, like, how far in advance and stuff like that. So I'm looking at some folks now that I want to have on for, for the opening day festivities. So I don't have anybody yet, but I do have a few floaters out there. I have a few feelers in places. So
that's awesome. And I mean, you always have me if I'm not passed out from working crazy hours.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got to be on it because, I mean, you're one of the most passionate Met fans I know. So there's no way that you're not going to be on the show, of course. But, it's just like, I also want to break up, like, we've done this now, like 2 weeks, 2 times out of the last month. So I want to make sure, like, wait, is this just John and Keith talking about the Mets? Like, no, there's going to be other stuff.
Yeah, see, the Media Goon show encompasses everything. The Untitled John Saponaro project, the Untitled John Saponaro Mets project, is going to be about the Mets, and you might have one or two other things just filter in, but that'll all somehow tie into the Mets. Me, I'm trying to do more of a variety kind of topic show and just have fun with it. And of course, because one of my things is the Mets, it's always going to have Mets talk in here.
Yeah.
And I actually enjoyed talking more about the entertainment industry with you, talking Marvel. Before I let you go, did you see the Snyder Cut?
I have not watched it. I don't know if I'm going to. I don't know how much I care. Have you seen it, and should I watch it?
If you can somehow find a rundown of like all the changes that happened and they just show it to you, I would watch that instead of watching the movie.
Okay. That's been my feeling about it, and that's why I haven't watched it. I did not like the first, like the original edit of the movie at all. At all. I found it had no, not many redeeming qualities. And so I was like, I understand that when a director's version, it can change it dramatically, but I'm like, this movie's so bad. Can it really change it that much?
I think we're going to have to add ourselves like another show where you and I just talk about comic book movies, and
we could do that. I would definitely do that show.
maybe we'll just do like once a month on the Media Goon show, me and you just talking about, all this different stuff coming out.
I'll do that if you want to do that. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. Because at least we're, both can like get deep into stuff. I know
right,
like you're
we're talking about this stuff like very surfacely. We deep dive a little bit more on the MCU stuff, earlier in the show, but like we would really it's like that would be what the whole show's about. So we could talk about characters and we could talk about, like the nitty gritty of kind of what it goes into it. So I would do that if you want to do it for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely do that with you. And I'll just leave this with you with the Snyder Cut. It's a better movie than the Whedon cut, but it's still a bad DC movie.
Fair. Yeah. That's exactly why I haven't rushed out to watch it, because I'm like, I think that's what it's going to like. To me, that's what it is. I'm like, oh, it's going to be it'll be better, but it's still going to be bad. Like it can't be, because there's so many flaws in that movie. Yeah.
The main one's Zack Snyder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny because when you see, and we could talk about this later, but the, I watched the trailer for the James Gunn Suicide Squad, night and day to the other Suicide Squad. Thematically, the acting, everything about it just felt different.
Yeah, and some people were just like, it looks okay with the new Suicide Squad. I'm like, do you think James Gunn's gonna actually show you all the good stuff?
Right.
Just because you saw Starro for a second doesn't mean Starro is going to be a big part of this movie. Right.
Yeah, but that's good. But he's great at that. I mean, he was, he's why Guardians is so good. He's why, like that ensemble and putting it together and having it be like, it's like the stakes are high, but it's offbeat and it's weird. And, and then like King Shark is Sylvester Stallone. It's fantastic.
I love the fact that they hid that he was going to be the voice this whole time.
That's so good. Because I heard it, I was like, that sounds like Stallone, but I couldn't tell if it was like somebody like doing a Stallone, because Rocket, like Bradley Cooper, it doesn't really sound like him. He's very much like doing a whole bit. And I was like, is somebody playing this like as a Stallone, And then I was like, they're like, no, it's Stallone. I was like, that's so good.
Yeah, it's like, we got Stallone. Really? Yeah, Frank.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's kind of like when Stallone was in the second Guardians movie and they were like, yeah, man, we got Kurt Russell, we got Stallone, we're putting them back together. You're like, you know what? Yes, that's what people want. Like when they watch stuff, they're like, put them in the same damn movie, man.
And one quick thing about that is I love how many people didn't realize that was the original Guardians team.
Yeah. Yes.
See, I'm telling you, you and I think I'm going to have to get rid of my co-host from Shark and Goon and make it Sap and Goon.
Don't get rid of anybody. I don't want to step on anybody's toes.
I haven't done a podcast with him in months.
All right. Well, I mean, listen, if you're offering, I'm saying I'll do it. I don't want anybody to be mad at me. I don't want to take anybody's job.
I think he'd be happy. He'll just produce it.
Yeah.
All right. So, John, thanks for coming on. Thanks for the announcement. Thanks for being part of the QBC family. I can't wait for the announcement of the actual name for the show. I can't wait to actually be able to sit in the back and watch you do the show and not have me having to worry about the control board and doing all the stuff and have you do it.
Yeah, man. Liz, look, I'm really looking forward to it. I appreciate it. Thank you for always, not just with this, but always welcoming me into the QBC family. So, I appreciate it. I think it's going to be a ton of fun, and I hope people watch it. So I hope you guys watch it.
Yeah, I'm sure more people will be watching you than watching me at this point. So
I don't know, man. I'm not sure. I hope so, though. I hope so. Because I hope so. To watch it.
I hope so too. Next thing I know, you'll be splitting off. Some bigger thing will grab you and be like, "All right, I knew him when."
Oh man, thank you, dude. I really appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Stick around. I'm gonna just run the opening credits because I didn't have time to do an end credit today, and then we'll end the broadcast. All right, everybody. Thank you. Check us out next week. I guess I'll do a show next week. Who knows? I might not have to with John around. Okay, guys. Talk to you later.